Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy. This is the ProTech Knives SBR. First off though, full disclosure, I gotta thank ProTech for sending this guy along as a review sample. I very much appreciate that, but I told them as always, I'm gonna talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. It might be a gem, it might be junk. They know my story. They still sent it along. We do have to assume this is the very best quality controlled ProTech ever, and I've done my best not to let this affect my review, but there you go, full disclosure. Next thing, size comparison. You can see here, put it next to the Ontario Rat number 2, Rat number 1. Blade length-wise, we're actually not so far off of the Rat 1 there. And then here it is against your Spyderco Delica, as always. So, again, not a huge knife here. Although it's actually not as tiny as it initially may feel. So, there you go. And then actually one other size comparison against my only other ProTech at the moment, which is this little guy. This is the ProTech Sprint. I like this knife a great deal. They are very, very different knives, but still, you can see there is, yeah, there you go. So, that is that size comparison. Next thing, who the heck makes this? Well, this is ProTech Knives. They are actually just a few, an hour and change up the road from me up there in LA. They are collaborating here with Les George, who is a very well-known knife designer out there in the knife world. And so this is a short-bladed version of their Rockeye folder, hence SBR, short-bladed Rockeye. They have made this, the Rockeye for a good long time, and now they are making this shorter version for people with certain legal entanglements, etc., or just people who like smaller knives. So there you go. But speaking of legal entanglements, a quick note on this guy. To start with, it's an automatic knife. The way you know that is you press this button and the blade comes flying out of there. There are all kinds of legal questions regarding automatic knives in various places around the country. For instance, where I am at right now, this guy is legal to own, but it is not legal to carry. As a result, this is a quick review. I have not been able to take this outside of the house due to California law because the blade is over 2 inches. So you do want to keep in mind, this is an illustration of the fact that you do want to keep in mind that your local laws are going to vary, and in some places in the country or the world, this may right here be a felony right out. So do keep that in mind, and make sure to check your local laws before you order any automatic knife. So let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of this very interesting little knife right here. Start with, it is made in the US of A. I have seen their factory. I've seen them making them. It's made in the States. That's always a beautiful thing. I cheer for manufacturing in my home countries. I'm sure you do yours. So there you go. Next thing, this has a very nice compact size. Size-wise, this is actually pretty petite in the pocket, if you will. I mean, we can sit here, we compare this. This is smaller than your Delica in the pocket here. And it just carries very nicely because of this deep carry clip on there, which actually brings us to the next point here, which is this has a great clip. Look, ProTech, one of the things they do very best is clips. They have these beautiful deep carry clips. They have these flush-mounted screws underneath there. They just do really good work when it comes to clips, and I just love it. And so this carries beautifully because of that clip there. Next thing, this has very nice ergonomics. Put this in the hand there, and it works. The clip is sufficiently sized and nicely placed so that it works well in the hand. You're not going anywhere with this guy because you've got all this jimping and texturing up here, as well as this finger choil here. Makes things easier. Shut the window there. But there you go. So that's good. Next thing, this guy has a nice low-key lanyard hole. Where's the lanyard hole, you say? That's the very best question to ask, but the lanyard hole is actually right here at the end. The last one of these grooves is the lanyard hole, so you can slide something through there, no freaking problem. That is a beautiful thing. I very much appreciate a lanyard hole that you can't tell is there, because, well, yeah, win-win for everybody. Next thing, this is a ProTech, so it does fire hard. For some people, that's considered a perk. Like, holy crap, that thing's throwing you around. If you're not expecting it, it definitely, they go like crazy. They're going for it in there. So that can be a nice thing, but actually in practice, functionally what that means is that this will always open. Even if you've got a little bit of grit or mud in the system, even if you're not perfectly at adjustment, this is going to open 100% of the time, which is actually in line with one of the very best benefits of an automatic. Next thing, this is a pretty beefy knife. I mean, that can be a pro and a con, but for some, that small and overbuilt is kind of a pro. This is sort of in that tradition of the small, beefy knife. Like, for instance, your CRKT Pilar here, which again has that same feeling of relatively small and relatively beefy. You hinder a half track. Again, and actually, by the way, size-wise, blade length, they're not so far apart. But these are both in that sort of tradition of like small and beefy that, for a lot of people is pretty compelling. The Benchmade 755 Spyderco Techno, in many ways, this feels like an automatic Spyderco Techno, although with some, a bunch of differences, but still. It's got that same spirit to it. Then finally, on the good side, this has a nice blade. It's S35VN is the blade steel on it, which is a good-to-go sort of thing. And in addition, you have you've got this sort of the stone-washed grind on it, and then a satin-ish or machine finish of some variety flat, complete with nice engraving and whatnot. So, digging the blade. So to me, all of that is the good. It's got a nice blade. It's pretty beefy. Fires pretty hard. Got a low-key lanyard hole, which I appreciate. Good ergo is a great clip. Nice compact size, and it's made in the States. On the great side, to me, this is a simple thing done well. I mean, I think to everybody it's a simple thing done well, but still. What I mean by that is, yes, automatic knives are a little bit more complex than, for instance, a manual frame lock. However, in this case, the way that they've done it is actually relatively simple. If you watch this assembly, you see there's a coil spring in there, and then the DLC-coated liners here are actually, the aluminum anodized liners, whatever they are just holding up against the blade there. So there's not really parts to lose in there particularly. And frankly, it's just going to be a very reliable thing. The automatic component of an automatic knife, one of the very best things that an auto can do is be reliable and also be accessible. You don't need, for instance, crazy amounts of dexterity to open this guy. You don't need to be using the proper technique. You just press the button and it comes open. And so if you have limited movement, for instance, if you have limited dexterity due to illness or otherwise, this is going to be a knife that will always reliably pop open for you with even just one hand. And that can be a very nice thing. And so it ends up feeling, as a result, just due to the fact that it is a small, beefy little guy with a pretty strong spring in it and good overall construction, like a tool that is relatively simple and just works. So to me, at least, that's what's great, is it feels like a simple thing done well, and it's also got the accessibility and the reliability thing that the automatics have in spades. I bet you could throw this in a pile of mud, pull it open, press the button, or, pull it out, press the button, and it would still fire 100%, and there's something nice to that. So on the bad side, the price on this guy, actually, this is more the neutral side, the price is fine. It's $170. It's not like awe-inspiring price, but, it's not out of line either, compared to what a lot of other folks are charging for things. It's fine. Whatever. Next thing on the bad side, of course, remember that autos are legally problematic. My current situation, being able to own, possess, review this, but not being able to carry it outdoors is kind of evidence of this fact. Fear-based lawmaking can turn a useful tool into a crime with a stroke of a pen, and automatics are one of the very favorite boogeymen that, not scared politicians, manipulative politicians can use to manipulate scared people. So, do keep that one in mind. Next thing, this is using the trademark chalky black aluminum. They knew I was going to talk about that. They do offer a blue version, which is nice, as well as an acid-washed blade, which is a thing. But, that's really it. There aren't that many crazy variants. I mean, maybe down the road they'll do like a, crazy sprints of it and things like that. Get it? Sprints? I meant sprint run. That's Protect Sprint. Anyways, I digress. That was really funny, by the way. But anyways, so I'd like to see a little more variety, but whatever. Next thing, the size on this guy isn't going to be for everybody. I mean, this is actually a little bit more blade than you might expect. I mean, you hear short blade, but in reality, the blade ain't so short relative to a lot of your everyday standards. But this isn't necessarily going to be enough for everybody, and particularly in the auto market, a lot of that is, the tactical military folks, and I don't know, if you're jumping out of a plane, do you want a bigger blade? I don't jump out of planes, so I don't know. But nevertheless, there's that. Then finally, this is a little bit beefy. What I mean by that is that, although the blade stock isn't completely unreasonable, thank you very much, ProTech, this definitely has that feeling of overbuilt, and it is more than anything thick behind the edge. I mean, it is not like terrible, oh my god, but it's definitely not an impressive grind. It's not a crazy slicer, as it is, for instance, on your Sprint here, which is just really, really nicely cut. So as a result, though, you're getting a little bit of overbuilding in exchange for a little bit of crazy slicing. And that's not a compromise that I personally enjoy making in my everyday life, but for some folks, if you're gonna be, doing crazy things and prying and whatnot, don't pry with a knife. That's a bad idea. But nevertheless, if you're doing harder use things with a small automatic knife for some reason, that might be a desire for you. But at least for me, that ends up feeling a little bit bad. It's like, this feels needlessly beefy. I'd rather have my small knives be super slicey. Whatever. That's kind of more personal. But so to me, that's what's bad here. Is it's a little beefy. It is the size is not going to be for everybody. It's got the chalky black aluminum that I'm not a huge fan of. The automatic knives in general from everybody are a little bit legally fraught, and the price is fine. It's pretty neutral, not inspiring, not out of line. Nothing ugly here, so we'll go into the final conclusion. Look, final conclusion, fine little knife. I mean, it absolutely works. It's got nice ergos, nice carryability, nice blade, and an air of simple dependability that I do appreciate. There's not that much going on here, but it works. It 100% works. I do wish personally it was ground a little thinner. I wish there was a little more variety in finishing and coloration, and these small kind of overbuilt knives aren't my cup of tea. There were definitely exceptions in my life, but, this one, for instance, didn't super speak to me. But my overall feeling about this knife, I suppose, is that if you like it, well, then you're going to like it. That's a stupid thing to say, certainly, but at another level it isn't, because this is a knife where many of the elements of the knife's essential being are going to be deal breakers for the mainstream audience. It's an automatic, which makes it legally unworkable for many people, just because of its inherent nature. It is a smaller knife, which may not fit the work of a lot of folks who like automatics, or just people in general. It is a chubby small knife, which will, I think, further narrow the audience, because I think a lot of small knife people like slicey small knives. And so for a lot of folks, I don't think this knife is going to be the best choice. I mean, it is sort of a specialist tool. However, if you are the kind of person who wants a smaller, overbuilt automatic knife, then by God, they've got one for you here. And I like this better than some of their other choices in that domain. A little bit better than the runt of the Calmigo. It just feels a little nicer in the hand, etc. And, I feel like this is a very nice little piece. So if you are a person who wants the SBR, you should buy the SBR. But if you're a person who's on the fence or not super interested in what this is doing, I think this is a fair one to pass on. So anyways, there you go. I hope this was informative to you, that the short-bladed Rockeye review was long on substance, and that I wasn't on an automatic pilot. Yeah, these are getting worse. And have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of the day. I hope I protected your wallet. There we go. That one wasn't bad. Bye now.